talk to the management of Syngene International. We have Jonathan Hunt, who's the MD and CEO of the company, joining us this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Hunt. Thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. And you've been actually talking about green shoots that have been visible with respect to the US biotech funding environment. Do you anticipate a strong rebound or increased activity in the second half of the year? And if you could also add on to it that what factors could drive that improvement?
Yeah, if you go back to the beginning of the year, we set out revenue guidance of high single digits, low double digit revenue growth. But we cautioned everybody that we wouldn't see that in the first half, that we thought the first half would be quite muted, flattish, maybe even down a little bit. And that's exactly how the first half of the year, first and second quarter, played out. But if you then back calculate into that guidance for the year, it suggests that the second half of the year will be much more positive. We're seeing a sequential return to growth, first quarter to second quarter, and the second half looks pretty good. And it's broadly based for us. It's across all the segments of the business, pre-development, manufacturing, or the dedicated centers. So we're looking forward to the second half of the year.
Well, sir, despite the fact that the margins in the first half stood at close to 24.6%, you have continued to maintain your full year guidance, which means that in the second half, you would need a margin of over 30%. Could you elaborate what are the strategies that could lead to such kind of an operational synergies and will enable Syngene to achieve the FY25 guidance?
Yeah, I think it's just operating leverage. Our guidance for the year was margins, EBITDA margins around where they were last year. So we saw an acceleration or improvement in our margin in the second quarter. We put on about 500 basis points of margin in the second quarter. And then you can back calculate again, triangulate into our guidance. That tells you the second half should also see good operating leverage. So a return to growth in the second half on the revenue line, and then operating leverage and improved margins in the second half of the year.
Right. With this Telis facility now expected to come online by the second half of this fiscal year, what does this ramp-up process actually look like right now? If you could share some expectations that you have already factored in with this facility's capacity, the potential revenue it could contribute, at least in the initial years of the operations?
Yeah, sure. At the moment, it's an engineering project. We're continuing to upgrade the facility. That's going well, absolutely on time. So that should open up in the second half of the year for us to show it to clients. And it's a really lovely facility, very modern equipment, state of the art. So I think it shows well. And we'll build that into, in terms of revenue potential, we'll build that into next year's guidance at a corporate level rather than sort of facility by facility. But in general, I think in the biologics space, we're seeing really healthy demand, good level of interest. We've had a lot of client visits during the first half of the year, and I think that augurs well for next year.
And lastly, before we let you go, given the increasing momentum that we have been seeing around the China Plus One strategy, where global companies are seeking alternatives to China, how is Syngene positioned to capitalize on this shift, and what are the key opportunities and challenges you foresee in this space going forward?
Yeah, I think your question characterizes it well. There's good opportunities there. We've certainly seen a step up in the number of client visits. We've seen a good step up in the number of audits, regulatory inspections from clients. So healthy demand. I'd go back to the comments I've made throughout the year. We should be really careful not to see this as a sort of overnight sensation and it's all about the coming weeks and months. I think this is a really positive opportunity and a really good trend for the next 3, 4, 5 years, not for the next 3 or 4 months. So I think we'll be talking about this regularly in the coming quarters and in the years ahead. And Syngene's very well positioned. We've got good infrastructure, really good reputation in terms of the quality of what we do, and we're competitive. So I look forward to reporting that over the years ahead.
All right, Mr. Hunt, we leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us in ET Now to talk about the quarter gone by and the way forward for your company. With that,
there comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits, and then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.